All right, everyone. We've got a quick hitter for you on a Thursday at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. This is the College Football Show. We apologize for the late start, 39 minutes late. My apologies again, but life happens and work and business happen behind the scenes. Do appreciate you being here. And again, I'll take your comments and questions. We want to get to two topics in particular. One involves something I know nothing about, going to have to read the article and educate myself and all of us at the same time. And the other one, the CFP meetings, as reported by Heather Dinich and others, concluded today. Super chat contributions are appreciated. The Amazon links in the description section of this video and all the videos. Check out the On the Move show from last night. We went like 3 hours with Leanne Herring, myself, your calls. That's going to be every Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern. 2021 Michigan win over Ohio State, of course, to go to the Big Ten championship game and break through the losing streak against the Buckeyes and launch this 4 consecutive wins for Michigan. Huge win for Michigan football. You voted that as the game for the watch party. I'm going to check on one thing, and as long as that's open, then we will do a watch party, Michigan, Ohio State 2021, Monday. So I believe that's going to be Monday. Let me double check on one scheduling obligation. I've got many on Monday, but at that time of night, probably 9 p.m. Eastern, we shall see again. But we are getting close to that. We want to do one watch party during the off season, one per month. We'll take a poll and you will decide our watch party. And then during the season, I'd like to do each weekend. So we got big games every weekend. We pick the biggest game, the most important game, the game that was the most exciting, the most controversial, whatever it is, the game of your choice each and every weekend, and then we get together for the watch party. Want to thank a personal thanks to Blue Wolverine for the gifted memberships. Thank you for those. Karen's here. Good to see Karen, of course. DDR 256. Adam as well. Notre Dame stuffing Michigan in the locker. Karen and I actually have a somewhat behind-the-scenes little chuckle to share and relating to the past as co-workers down in the great state of Mississippi. Had some fun with some videos that some old friends shared on Wednesday. I checked them out late Wednesday night. I shared these videos with my kids, a couple of them, a couple video clips of me in my younger days, and made a statement about them possibly disowning me after they watched them, and they actually were howling and wanted to see more. Okay. All right, let's get to the CFP discussion first and foremost. Manimal Matt, good to see you. Dave's here as well. College football playoff leaders say everything is on the table after meetings wrap. Everything's on the table. So they've been meeting about this for how long, and everything's still on the table? Okay. Leaders of the CFP are still, quote, mulling it over what the format should look like in 2026 and beyond. Executive Director Rich Clark said Wednesday, following the conclusion of 2 days of meetings in Asheville, North Carolina. Pretty much everything's on the table. They're taking a good look at it all, but they're taking a fresh look at it. I wouldn't say there's a leading contender right now for them. Tough to believe that. Last month at the SEC spring meetings in Destin, Florida, there was a new support from the head football coaches for a 16-team model that's 5 plus 11. We talked about that, of course, numerous times. The 5 highest ranked conference champions taking down the 11 at-large bids. Also surprised many leaders in the Big Ten Conference that seem to be backing the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model. That's 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten, 2 each for the ACC and the Big 12, 1 as a Group of 5 conference champion, and 3 at large. Many athletic directors in both leagues had been aligned in their desire to have automatic qualifiers that would guarantee both conferences 4 spots. Following the SEC spring meetings, many sources in the Big Ten have indicated that they would not even consider a 5-11 model unless the SEC and the ACC both go to 9 conference games. So a little back and forth there, like, hey, you want that? Well, you better give us this, because the SEC or the Big Ten would, of course, be concerned. They're not concerned about the ACC, but just to get everyone in line, they include the ACC, but the Big Ten, of course, if they're going to give up the 11 at large, and with the SEC playing 1 less conference game and bulking up those records, because you got to figure the SEC is playing the extra conference game. That's 16 teams playing an extra non-conference game. The SEC teams are going to win 15 of those, if not 16 of those extra games. Replace that with playing all conference games, another 9th conference game. So that one displaced non-conference game becomes a conference game, and your league automatically goes 8-8 in those games instead of 15-1 or 16-0. The Big Ten and the SEC have the bulk of the control of the next iteration. They're obligated to come to an agreement on what the format is, Clark said. The SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has said repeatedly that he wanted more clarity on the selection process. And really, I don't, in a sense, have an issue with the 5+11. I like that better than the 4+4-2-2-1-3, because I don't like to assume the best conferences. I don't like to start the season assuming that the SEC and the Big Ten are the best conferences, that they get 4 automatic spots. But they most likely will be. It's a 97% guarantee that they will be the best conferences. And I don't like the committee having so much control that they've got 11 spots open to their discretion, and they don't tell us their criteria in order as it applies to everyone in all circumstances. We know the criteria, but they haphazardly apply it. I would say a lot of it is refreshing our metrics. Some of these metrics were put into place with a whole different look at the way college football was laid out and the conferences were structured. That's odd that the executive director of the playoff committee would say that they're refreshing their metrics. They came out of this meeting refreshing metrics. Well, we've known how many conference games are played, how many teams are in these conferences, how well the teams and the conferences have played. I don't understand that comment. I wouldn't say it's dramatic, but it's a refresh. We looked at some of our processes and how we do things within the selection committee room. Okay, that, sure. Some of the things we brought up to the table for them to consider, but just things to help us get better. Clark reiterated something Sankey said at his spring meetings, and multiple other sources have surmised that the current 12-team model remains an option for 26 and beyond. Wow. Okay. I thought it was dead and gone. Whatever they decide, Clark said they'd like to do it by the fall, and they're not looking to postpone the decision. I don't think they're going to kick the can for a second year. The CFP did decide this week to incorporate sports wagering monitoring and will have its staff determine the details of it. The playoff also will use player availability reports, which would be handled in a similar way to what some conferences already do in regards to those injury reports that are similar to the NFL that were just instituted in some conferences last year or the year before. In terms of incorporating sports wagering monitoring, maybe that's much like how the University of Iowa and Iowa State players and different athletes, not just football players, were caught wagering because they had a monitoring system on them. We're going to take that model on, he said. We have to work to do that, though, to perfect it and to ensure that we're doing it the right way. But that will be an important position for the CFP. They've made progress, but there's still lots of space to make some decisions. I don't know if there's any hurdles they have to get over. I think they just want to make sure they get it right. That's going to be 6 years of format that they're deciding, and rushing to a bad decision is not in any of our best interests. They want to make sure they look at all the options and understand what the pros and cons are. Basically, what he's saying there isn't what he's saying. What he stated there about everybody collectively trying to come to the best decision, I don't necessarily think that's the real truth. I think the real truth is that the SEC and the Big Ten can't decide. That the SEC and the Big Ten can't decide what is best for them. They can decide what's best for them, each for themselves, but they can't decide how much they're going to force the other one to give up. Meaning the Big Ten wants the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, but they want the SEC to play 9 games. And the SEC doesn't know if it wants to go to 9 games, but it wants a 5+11. So does the SEC stay with a 5+11 and go to 9 conference games? Or do they figure, hey, we want to stay with 8 conference games and we'll give up the 4-4-2-2-1-3? That's what's going on here. That is what's going on here. So Dave's here says 1 extra game is 8 SEC losses, and they come in line with the Big Ten middle and bottom. In theory, yes. In theory. However, going into the playoff last year, the SEC had a better non-conference record than the Big Ten. So it is still going to come down to, if they're all playing the same number of conference games, it's going to come down to who played the best against each other. And last year, before the playoff, that was the SEC. Despite some losses that got magnified and did not look good for the conference, the SEC still played the best in the regular season against the other conferences. I think the record turned out to be 19-13 for the SEC and 13-13 for the Big Ten. But that's with a 3-game sweep for Ohio State. Indiana lost a game in the playoff. Penn State went 2-1. So the Big Ten went, throw out the Ohio State-Oregon game, and the Big Ten went 5-3 in the playoff, and the SEC went 2-3. So I believe that the SEC was 17-10 non-conference, and the Big Ten was 8-11. Possibly 8-10. But your point is well taken. Dave's here. You're right in theory. You're right in theory. So that is the wrap up from the College Football Playoff Committee meeting for 2 days in Asheville, North Carolina, coming off meetings that they had I shouldn't say that. The meetings from last week or 2 weeks ago were, of course, just the SEC, and that was simply in Destin, Florida, with SEC coaches, athletic directors, and administrators. Okay, now let's get to what Michigan, meaning the state of Michigan, is proposing here, because Sorry, had to get back to somebody real quick. So what we've got here is all right, an ad for smoke, whatever that is. Michigan introduces bill to ban reporting NIL deals to NCAA, stop schools from assisting in investigations. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to be convinced that this is something that is reasonable. Based on the title, it does not appear to be reasonable. Based on the title, and I could be completely wrong, just basing this on the title, it appears as though Michigan legislation has lost its mind. But I'm not going to judge this proposal based on a headline. The newly approved House settlement has created fallout throughout the college sports world. Now the state of Michigan has seen a bill introduced that would potentially target part of the agreement that revolves around reporting NIL deals with the NCAA and investigating those deals. House Bill number 4643 was introduced by Representatives Tate, Herzberg, and Reingens last week. In it, the bill would completely ban reporting deals to the NCAA. On top of that, it would also prohibit schools from assisting in any investigation and ban athletic associations from penalizing athletes or schools for non-compliance. Again, unless I'm missing something here, this seems insane. What is instituted by the NCAA concerning investigations is much like what is expected of us as citizens if we're being investigated by the government, and that's to cooperate. All right, we'll read further. I might be wrong. While the House settlement was largely known as the settlement that would allow for revenue sharing, there's more to it than just that. Among the other agreements in it is to try and shape the future of college athletics was that NIL deals above $600 will need third-party approval. To do that, those deals are going to be sent to a new clearinghouse called NIL Go. Deloitte is set to oversee the fair compensation ranges for that. And that's the tricky part right there. Deloitte is set to oversee the fair compensation ranges to determine what is fair compensation. From there, the House settlement also established a new enforcement agency called the College Sports Commission. It would be their job to handle those investigations into improper deals done outside the system that the settlement is seeking to establish. Both the third-party approval and the new enforcement agency would be directly affected by the bill if it were to be passed and signed into law. This comes in a state with 5 FBS programs. Includes 2 Big Ten schools, Michigan, Michigan State. The Wolverines won the national championship in 2023. Notably, earlier in the year, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big Ten, and SEC each presented their member institutions with affiliation agreements that would prevent universities from using state laws to violate the new enforcement rules. The price for not signing on to those affiliation agreements could be steep as well. In essence, a school risks the loss of conference membership and participation against other power league programs. It's a tactic those conference administrations have used to hopefully enforce the House settlement regardless of laws. Michigan bill share similarities with similar bill in Tennessee. In May, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed House Bill 536 into law, considered by many to be a very athlete-friendly law. It shares some unique similarities with the one that is being brought forward by representatives in Michigan. In it, the law states that Tennessee schools will be able to receive dollars from collectives unless told otherwise by federal law, a valid court order, or antitrust laws. On top of that, it made so the NCAA cannot create anti-competitive restrictions. Furthermore, that law sought to protect schools from any potential further legal disputes. That amounts to, like the bill in Michigan, a pushback on the House settlement. In particular, they both appear to prohibit all of the House settlement's limits on NIL compensation. On top of that, they both create protections for schools from investigators. What comes next in Michigan remains to be seen. The bill will need to be passed and signed into law before the fallout can be entirely felt. It also remains to be seen if other states are going to follow suit with similar laws. This is half fascinating and half making my head spin, okay? Because I think I can grasp this to a certain extent, but I would need to reread it a few times. Missouri spent $31 million in NIL over last year. Okay. All right. Brings us back to a conversation that we had last night on our On the Move show with our resident lawyer, Adam, about restricting NIL compensation. He is all for it. He believes it's legal, believes it can be executed due to antitrust laws. But Michigan, as unreasonable and unlawful as that seemed to me initially, once they compared it to what has transpired in Tennessee, maybe not. Trojan fight. I'm sure behind the scenes schools are going to politicians to get these laws proposed. Other states already do this. Yes, apparently in Tennessee at least. Appreciate you, the real MVP. Still caps what people make, sure. And that's where it's difficult for me to find a legal backing for unless it becomes a full-fledged business, and until it becomes a situation in which that business can then incorporate and enact rules within the business that are legal to cap pay based on the success of the business. But then we have all this outside money that's basically like endorsement money on the professional level coming in. And unlike endorsements, so that's the dynamic that we have to deal with right here. Unlike endorsements, where Nike wants LeBron James and they don't care who he plays for, These are people. These are private people, multi-millionaires or corporations that have an incentive based on their rooting interests because of their ties to certain schools to draw those athletes to those schools and to keep them at those schools, as opposed to professional endorsements where the league has complete control within a certain set of limitations, free agency being the main one. The league can determine where the players play. Fascinating, because you still have this component of school and academics and the choice of where to play based on the choice that we all have on, as long as we can get into a school, that we have that choice. And it's not professional sports, where this would all change if this did become a model of professional sports and the league could dictate where these kids go to school. And that is never going, I cannot see a world in which that would ever happen. That they would send a kid from Florida to Wisconsin and say, you have to go to school there because you're a paid football player. You're basically a professional, and that's part of the deal. And, we're drafting you. And so without that component involved, I don't know how they can restrict NIL deals. If the car dealership in College Station wants to have the Texas A&M quarterback come down and sign autographs, this clearinghouse is going to be able to determine what that is worth. Okay, that's a difficult estimation, but I'm sure that they can do that. But what keeps the car dealership, what gives them the grounds to put a limit on that? That's what I'm wrestling with. Videos released today, folks. Ole Miss record prediction. Rebels went 10-3 last year, 9-3 in the regular season. Check out what I think about Lane Kiffin's team minus Jackson Dart and a host of NFL players, Walter Nolan and others. So again, it's our Ole Miss prediction. It's on the streets. It's on your laptop or your phone right now. We will release Auburn later tonight. We also have predictions that are posted from Iowa, Washington, out of the Big Ten, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. So that's only 6 teams. Sounds like we got 64 to go. Hopefully I can get them all done. But we are committed to posting predictions regardless. So we will post our predictions, and it is quite the chaotic conclusion to the season that I have forecasted. Wait till you see it. Did not do that intentionally. I did not try to conceive a chaotic finish, a log jam for playoff spots. I simply forecasted the season, went through the various teams and predicted their records. And then when it was all said and done, I came out with 10 teams that will certainly make the playoffs based on their qualifications, their win-loss record, and what conference they play in. And so I'm left with 2 playoff spots and 13 teams that have. So yes, it's all a lot of this right here. It's a lot of this business, and we've got An ACC championship game with an 8-0 team and a 7-1 team. So let's say the 8-0 team wins. They're in the playoff. So we've got the loser of that game at 9-4, and we've got another team at 9-3 in the ACC. So we got the champion, and then we got a 9-4 and a 9-3 in the ACC. In the Big Ten, we've got an 8-1 against a 7-2 in conference play in the Big Ten championship game. So let's say the 8-1 team, 11-1 overall, wins the Big Ten. They go 12-1. Then what we are left with is a 10-3 team, a 10-2 team, and two 9-3 teams in the Big Ten. 12-1, 10-2, 10-3, 9-3, 9-3 in the Big Ten. That's how many teams? 4, 5 with a playoff opportunity. In the Big 12, I've got two 10-2 teams that went 7-2 in the Big 12 in the championship game. That's pretty much what happened last year. One of them is going to win. They go 11-2. The other one's 10-3. Then I also have two other 9-3 Big 12 teams. In the SEC, remember the logjam last year? If not, go look it up. I've got two teams going to the SEC championship game at 6-2 in the conference. But I have 3 6-2 teams and 4 5-3 teams in the SEC. So the way the SEC shakes out, I've got 11-2, 10-2, 10-3, 9-3, 9-3, 9-3, 9-3. Root for this. Chaos. Should be fun. And Notre Dame with their record will factor in. So check out the videos. Iowa, Washington, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, posted, Ole Miss, and Auburn coming. And many more, because we got to get them all done. A lot of good people in this chat today. We got John D'Adamo. Good to see John. And congratulations once again, sir. You deserve it. Trojan Fight. Moose is here with his wrench there. Good to see. And his hammer, even though the hammer is not going to be used. I was giving this to Dr. Buckeye last night. Slap on the wrist for the maize and blue. Now, it could be a pretty painful slap on the wrist in regards to money and loss of scholarships. I don't know that's, yeah, I could see some loss of scholarships, minimal loss of scholarships. I think it's going to be more recruiting restrictions and money. I do not see them coming. Hey, clip this off and hold me accountable. I never claimed to be an expert on NCAA investigations or trying to track their logic. But I will say that to me, I do not see wins or championships being vacated. Do not see it at all. Give me 2 seconds here, please. Supposed to have some pickleball tonight, but I understand it's looking pretty threatening out there. Yes, they could hammer Jim and other people that are inconsequential to all of this because he's an NFL head coach. Dave's here says the Supreme Court repeated talks about it being professional sports because of times they pay players, make exceptions. Not sure how this doesn't make that argument even stronger. To me, a professional basically, number one, gets paid for their work. Secondly, it is a pay of a career, and this could be the hang-up. To me, it's pay involving a career pursuit, regardless of how much money's made, to be a professional. You know, somebody down at McDonald's makes money. They're paid an hourly rate to flip hamburgers, but are they a professional hamburger flipper? No, they're a worker. They're not a professional. It doesn't take some outstanding skill, and it's not a career type job that requires development. Yeah, it's a tough one to get a handle on. We've arrived at a very strange place in college athletics, for sure. Yeah, when John says here about, I assume he's talking about Jim Harbaugh. Well, the reason he'd fight it is because he probably wants to coach in college now, or maybe that's Connor Stallions, who would want to coach in college now. You know, this does not affect Jim Harbaugh as long as he's a professional head coach, of course. Now, he's a relatively young man. I don't know if he has pursuits or thoughts of coaching forever, as his dad did. I believe, I might be wrong there. I think his dad coached a long, long time. But his ability to stay a professional coach, as we have seen, that's become a young man's game. We don't see old men, meaning NFL head coaches over the age of 60. How many are there? I think there would be him and who? His brother might be close to it. So if he wants to continue to coach, that show cause may actually show up at some point to hurt him. It's unlikely that Jim Harbaugh is going to coach in the NFL for the next 10 to 12 years. He may be successful and be able to stick around, or be successful enough that even if he gets fired from his current job, to be able to parlay that into a next job. But all right, folks, this takes some digging and some thought in regards to this battle between settlement determination, which involves the money that's being paid to the athletes. That doesn't seem to be challenged, of course, the $20.5 million. But outside of that, the focus is on the NIL, the restrictions, the clearinghouse, and all the authority that's given to this clearinghouse, if in fact it is allowed to operate and it goes forth, as is stated in the settlement, that this clearinghouse has this kind of authority, we know in name who's running this clearinghouse. We know the name of it, but I know nothing about these companies and who's in their pockets, who's going to control them, possibly. I'm being skeptical here to make this a more difficult process for the athletes or a rubber stamp process for the athletes. As has been fairly well determined and substantiated, about 90% of these deals, of NIL deals during this 4 to 5 years, that were sanctioned by these collectives, meaning that they went out and the not the schools, but the collectives that are connected to the schools, that have a relationship with the schools, that have an organization and a structure, that are collecting money for the athletes. About 90% of those deals would clear this clearinghouse. Now, how they're making that determination, I've not heard that next step of explanation of why those deals were considered legitimate versus only 20 or 30% of the deals that came directly from a booster or the booster's company to compensate the athletes for NIL. Only 20 or 30% are those are, as is currently structured or going forward, July 1st, going to be structured, only 20 to 30% of those would be approved, which people have served that up as meaning there's going to be deals under the table to bypass the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse is going to get sued a lot, or there are going to be slight tweaks to these deals between the multimillionaires, the boosters, that group of people, and the players to make their deals more presentable. Same deal, add a few paragraphs, drop a few commas, do what needs to be done to make it palatable for the clearinghouse. I can see any one of those threes happening, or a combination of those three. All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. You know that. And again, this is our show that we present each and every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time with you, the College Football Show. And yes, I'm going to check with our Michigan friends on the Michigan channel to see if they are doing their membership drive or their membership, whatever they call it, next Monday. Otherwise, I think Monday is a good opportunity for us to go live with all of you in the watch party. And we do appreciate Blue Wolverine in particular for his gifted memberships in recent days. And if you want to take part in our watch parties that are going to be once a month in the off season, and potentially, we believe, based on your response, once a week, think big games on Saturday. Choose which one you want to do a watch party with your friends here at the Voice of College Football, and then we do the watch party that week. And so that's going to be a good time. So get your membership at the Voice of College Football. We believe we will do that on Monday night or at some point next week, and that's going to be June's watch party. Then we're going to turn around and do a July watch party that is going to be, again, your choice. So you have spoken. And I don't know how many votes we got, about 500. Michigan, Ohio State 2021 was the winner. Please like and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. If you haven't noticed, we've been stuck on 46,000 subs for quite some time. So please subscribe if you are not subscribed. I still see subscriber numbers that are only, I don't know, 50 or 60% of the views totals, whether those are to the videos or the live streams. It costs you nothing to subscribe, so please do that. All right, I believe I've got my answer from one John DiAdamo. Very nice. That they've got a membership stream. Yes, we're going 8 p.m. Eastern Monday for our Michigan channel members only live stream. So I think we can parlay that straight into the big watch party for 2021. So get your membership, and we're going to, thanks for the answer, John, roll up the watch party on Monday night at 9 Eastern with all of you. I've got a busy Monday. I appear on the Alabama call-in show with Jackson and company, talking my book. Good segue. Well done, Moose. Disputed National Champions. The link's in the description section. You don't need the link if you don't want it. You can just go to Amazon and look up Disputed National Champions. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of about, I don't know, probably about 70 or 80 responses at this point, and I appreciate everyone who has positively responded to the book. Disputed National Champions, I believe you'll love it. You probably have a team that is depicted somewhere here. There's a lot of Florida State. There's a lot of Notre Dame in this book. There's a lot of Miami, Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska. We've got some Tennessee, some Alabama. Of course, it's the 1990s. Colorado, Georgia Tech, of course, vied for a national championship in 91. Some Penn State. So your team is probably part of the book. And if not, you still love college football. And this is not just a history book. It takes all the results and propels them into the future playoff formats. Thank you. I believe that's Adam chiming in. Appreciate that, sir. And somebody requested a signed copy this week. Hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We have sent about 25 or 30 of those out. So I want to thank everyone who has requested a signed copy. So if you would like one of those, just contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And also, if you would like to sponsor, whether it's this channel, this show, or the entire network, or a slice of Michigan or Ohio State or Oklahoma, Texas, Miami, whoever, then of course you would reach out at sponsorships@vocfb.com. Sponsorships@vocfb.com. We have a long and impressive track record of helping sponsors and partnering with sponsors to produce better results for their goods, services, or their personal brand. This is the day and age of personal brands, so that is also an option for you. Thank you so much for that, John. Sponsorships@vocfb.com. We had a conversation with TJ from the Michigan channel earlier this week about recruiting, about the NCAA, about the wide receiver core, and the new addition of Jake Garcia at quarterback. So check out those videos in that live stream right here at the Voice of College Football as well. We've got a full slate tonight. Michigan, Alabama, and others are on tap. So check out the schedule. And we'll be back here on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Who knows who's going to be a guest and who knows what the topic's going to be. But make it on back, and we'll see you on Friday.